Hi, this is Carmazzi, best-selling author and currently ranked as one of the world's top 10 thought leaders in organizational culture and leadership. And today I'd like to tell you about why you need DC or Directive Communication psychology in your organization. Now behind me, I've got an infographic, and this kind of will give you a brief overview of, well, why you need DC psychology in your organization. So let's look at the global statistics on organizational health, all right? So these statistics are around the elements of human capital, but affect how human capital is affecting everything else: innovation, profitability, expansion, having competitive edge, sales, everything, literally. All right, so let's look at one of the elements that a lot of people don't really take into consideration, and that is basically people value ROI. All right, so let's just say that you hire somebody and you pay them $10,000 a month. All right, now this person, obviously you're hiring them at $10,000 a month because they have the experience, knowledge, wisdom, and ability that is worth $10,000 a month. Well, apparently, most people in an organization, okay, are actually performing at 68% of their actual potential. Now, in the beginning, of course, when people first start working, they don't really know the organization, they don't know the systems very well, so they're not going to be as competent, even though they may have the skills. Now, once they get the skills, and understand the organization, if they're excited and still as passionate as they were when they first started, they're probably going to give you 100%. The problem is that most organizations don't support people maintaining that high level of passion and excitement. And so therefore, most organizations globally are on an average losing about 32% of their employee salary value, which means that basically out of $10,000, you're only getting $6,800 worth of real value for that specific employee. And if you add that up times all of the employees, well, that can be a lot of money. So let's look at the next one. Skill implementation. All right, so only 13% of employees are actually applying the full scope of their skills to solve problems and achieve results. Now, how does that work? Well, okay, let's look at this. Okay, you may have a skill. You may know how to do something. You may have some great ideas. You may be super innovative. But if you're not in an environment that supports you using those skills, oftentimes it's like, oh, why bother? Or, oh, I'm already too busy. Oh, it's not my job. It's not really my place to say. So these are some of the common factors that you will hear in organizations. In fact, only about 13% of employees globally, okay, based on various studies, are applying their full scope of their skills, which basically means you've got a lot of human potential that is not being utilized by your people if you don't have an environment, or for that matter, an organizational culture that supports it. Which takes us to organizational culture. 51% of employee performance can improve with the right organizational culture, which basically means that right now, if you're paying that $10,000 a month for each employee, or let's say for a group of employees, which means you could get over $15,000 of actual value based on the mean and the norm of employee ROI if you have the right organizational culture. So, how do we develop the right organizational culture? Well, that's why we're here, to apply directive communication psychology. So let's look at the different elements of directive communication psychology. One of the key factors that we do is repair and rebuild organizations and organizational cultures by interactively nurturing awareness. Now, there's different types of awareness, of course, but let's look at specifically some of the elements that we do, okay? So first of all, how people process information, how people get clarity. Now you may think, well, why is that important? Consider this, okay? You're in a situation where you are reasonably successful doing things in your way, your process. When you look at something, there are certain things that just appear to be common sense. And then there are people around you that completely go against the concept of common sense. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by idiots. And in reality, see, the thing is that they simply have a different genetic way of getting clarity, which basically means there is a different process of doing things. And because of that process, their clarity is so obvious that your way seems alien and doesn't seem like common sense. So this oftentimes creates conflict, loss of synergy, and it's one of the essential root causes of why trust breaks down, because when you start to impose your process or your way on other people, well, or when other people start to impose their way on you, you start to feel that essentially they are not really trusting your ability and your way of doing things. And so therefore, you oftentimes just kind of say, okay, I'll just follow you, which of course reduces skill implementation and excitement, passion, and for that matter, the motivation to be proactive, okay? Now, why people do things is also an element that we look at and nurture awareness of. So primary motivators, which do change from time to time and also from environment to environment, are affecting why you do things. They affect the decisions you make. They also affect the reactions that you have. See, often we will be reacting to people around us, and we don't actually know why they're doing things. But once we understand why people do what they do and understand a little bit more about why we do what we do and why we react, why others react, why people are acting and reacting to each other, we will be able to create environments where we can support each other's why and reduce reaction because we are aware of what is really going on rather than what we just think is going on. The other thing, of course, is who, okay? How others are affecting you, okay? Who are these people, and basically how their actions and or reactions are affecting you. Sometimes you don't really realize that it is a group dynamics thing. See, when you are in one environment, your behavior is different than another. So for example, at work, your behavior, your ideas, your attitudes are different than often with your family, or different again from your friends. And even in a different group of friends, you have different behaviors, not because you decide to act differently, but because different groups or group dynamics bring out different facets of who you are. So knowing how other people are affecting you is going to be a key factor in creating an environment and a culture that is going to support higher performance of you and those people as well. But it also is important to know how you are affecting others because, well, you're part of the whole team. And that requires an awareness of how your actions, behaviors, attitudes are literally affecting the group environment and creating the dynamic that is happening, okay? Now, of course, all of this goes back to what kind of an organizational culture you're working in. And we have various tools and whatnot like the culture evolution evaluation, which essentially is a tool that understands your organizational culture level and helps you to evolve to the next level. So it shows you what evolution you're at, and then benchmarks that so that you can move to the next level. So knowing where you are, what organizational culture you're working in, is going to help to understand what you currently have so that you can see the progress and evolve to the next level. And of course, all of that understanding and awareness comes down to simple, small modifications that you can do to basically take control of the environment. Okay? Now, when I say simple, these are literally simple things. Once you have various awarenesses, all you need to do is make small modifications in your behavior that are going to affect the entire organizational culture, or at least the culture of the team that you are working in. And you can't do that without knowing what specific small modifications to do. Example would be, let's say you go out with your friends, and let's say that you're normally kind of really excited and you're like, whoa, you know, and you're crazy out there, but suddenly you go out with the same friends, go to the same places, talk about the same things, but now instead you're being very philosophical. Okay? Your friends' reaction, their behaviors will change based on the one modification that you made on how much energy you had, for example, in this case. And by understanding the elements of group dynamics and the psychology behind environment and culture, and all of these different awarenesses, you will be able to very specifically sculpture the kind of organizational culture you want. And of course, that means that you need to apply directive communication strategy. And this strategy essentially uses various tools that are specifically designed in order to affect organizational culture, plus creating different elements across the organization. And more importantly, this is not just about awareness and learning, this is all about implementation. So the DC strategy is not a learning strategy, it is an implementation strategy, and the tools help us to connect everyone and implement it so that people really understand how they are affecting other people, how they can achieve higher levels of personal excellence based on what they want, and how they are contributing to the evolution of the organizational culture, and at the same time have fun while doing it. So all of the tools and the strategies combined with the awareness basically take us to the elements of nurtured emotions. Okay, now these nurtured emotions create purpose, they create trust, they create engagement, they create confidence, they create excitement and passion. And of course, those nurtured emotions then lead us to various cultivated behaviors like cooperation, low absenteeism, innovation. I mean, an active innovation, not like, oh, hey, here's an idea. Innovation means taking action and doing something, all right? Communication, and communication isn't like, oh, I can listen to you now. It's like really understanding people at their depth, understanding how they get clarity and how you can communicate with them so that they really get it, instead of like sometimes when you're talking to people and you say, do you understand? And they say, yes, I do. And then they go and do something completely different, okay? How to develop leadership. All of these emotions develop leadership, they develop teamwork, and of course, they develop proactive action. And at the end of the day, the result is improved organizational health, where you have more productivity, more competency, better resource efficiency, higher performance, more cost saving, and ultimately more profit as an organization. So I hope that this simple explanation kind of gives you an idea of what directive communication is and how it's going to help your organization to improve the culture and the individuals within that culture to essentially achieve more than you are currently expecting from your people. Just understanding the fact that your people right now are probably not working up to their potential, okay, is a huge factor. And just bringing them, even if you could just bring them up to a higher level of being the best that they can be, And of course, a lot of that requires trust. It requires a sense of feeling value. And directive communication psychology is going to be part of that journey. So the next step is to contact a certified directive communication trainer or consultant to develop your organization. So with that, this is Arthur Carmazzi wishing you great success.